Why do you think it's so hard for people to be transparent about their money and talk about money? Why is it such a taboo topic in general?
Yes.
I think for all classes, all individuals.
I totally agree. It's like it's so funny because, and I wrote about this in my book, like for women, we have shame if we don't have enough money, but we also have shame if we have quote unquote too much.
Really?
Yes.
Why?
Because it's like, I have more than them and let me hide it because people are going to think I'm showing off, or they have imposter syndrome, right? Am I worthy of having this much money? I've experienced that myself at different times, right? Like you've worked hard for it, but you think that you don't deserve it for some reason. And I think that I think society was sort of designed so that we wouldn't talk about money.
Why?
Because I think it's designed so that we have a few people at the top and a lot of people at the bottom. And so now, then of course the middle class emerged, and we've gone through different things as a middle class, as a collective, right? But I think I think that's part of the reason why it's like, don't tell, employers saying, don't tell your coworkers how much you're making because I'm paying you more than I'm paying this one and I don't want y'all to know. Right? So it's like, it comes from those places, but it's reinforced everywhere,
Right. Everyone's reinforcing it.
Exactly. And I think
not just corporations or
Yes. And because there's so much mystery, it's like, I don't know how much you make, right? You don't know, maybe you know how much I make because I talk about it all the time, but I don't, you know what I mean? So like, we don't know, and we're scared to make assumptions, and we're sort of guessing, and we're like, well, if I put mine out there, I might be embarrassed because I discovered that like I'm actually either making too much related to my peers or too little. And I think it goes back to belonging. We just want to belong to a community, to a group. You know what I mean?
Sure.
And so because of that, it's like we don't want to do anything that's going to make us not belong. It's just an inherent human need to belong. And so I think that we don't talk about money because we think it's going to affect our ability to belong, whether it means we're too broke or we have too much, or somewhere in the middle.
So what conversations should we be having around money? How consistently should we be having them, and with who?
Yes. Okay. So in terms of the conversations I'm having, I'm telling people like, if I get a speaking gig, here's how much they paid me, right? And I asked for more and they gave it to me. So make sure you do that too, right? Like, or I negotiated for higher pay, or I negotiated for profit sharing, or I asked for more vacation days, right? Like we need to share our money earning strategies with each other, especially with, women and people of color, right? Like putting more money, like that's what allyship is, in my opinion, is putting money in the pockets of the groups who need them, right? And who, we have this huge wealth chasm in this country. So like, how can we start to change that? And so that's why I share how much I got paid for a book deal, like all these things that you're not supposed to share. I'm like, I'm gonna tell y'all. This is how much I got, this is how I got it, And I think it's important. So I think sharing money-making strategies is very important. I also think one of the things that has been so valuable to me with some of my peers, especially, I will say, my white guy peers in particular, have showed me, like, they have taught me things about, like, investing strategies, or like, oh, here's a strategy that I'm doing with my money, or I'm investing in real estate, or I'm doing these different things. Like, what are people doing with money once you have some, right? Like once you have a little bit more than you need to live off of, what do you do with the excess? And sharing those things, right? Sure. Sharing that information, because it's usually hidden. And it's like, there's a small group of people that know, and you don't know until you have peers who have done it. And then you find out, right? In those quiet conversations that aren't on, on Facebook, right?
Sure. So, should people be talking with their friends, their family members, their spouses about money? Or what if someone's really uncomfortable, says, you know what, I don't want to talk about the money I make and what we should be doing? What conversation can you have to try to break the wall down? Well,
I think you could say, here's why I want to talk about money. And here's why, like, we have to be, I think if we're willing to be transparent, people will be transparent with us. That's what I've found in the conversations that I've had. And that's how I've learned a lot about money, is by having conversations. The friend that I was spending time with last night, she's an investor and a financial advisor. And so I was asking her, like, okay, well, what are you investing in, and how are you thinking about it, and what is an investment thesis? Like, I don't even know what that means, right? Like, we were having conversations, and she was teaching me all of this stuff because I was willing to tell her, like, okay, here's how much money I want to invest, but I don't know where best to put it, that kind of thing. So I think you just got to be willing to put yourself out there first. And I find that people want to talk about it. So when I bring it up and I start sharing, they immediately start sharing, because it's like they were like waiting for an opportunity to talk about this.
Yes.
Is what I find. So I think we just got to start doing it, and create more transparency around it. And then, it creates opportunity for all. And that's the other piece of it, is like, I recognize that, even someone who would be considered a direct competitor, maybe they sell the same thing I sell. I don't believe in competition in that way. I think there's more than enough money to go around. I think there's more than enough opportunity to go around.
Yes.
And I choose to be friendly with and support my competitors, quote unquote, and vice versa. And that just means that we all get better at what we're doing. We all can serve our clients better, right? We all can make more money.
Absolutely.
So I just choose to believe that. And sometimes, there are times where I'm too trusting, and someone, I don't know, I guess you could, for lack of a better phrase, steals from me, right? Or takes an opportunity, or says one thing but does another behind my back, whatever. And that's going to happen too. But I'm like, but I don't want to be a person who's closed. So I just got to be me, and it is what it is, right? There's going to be some occupational hazards when you're being transparent.
Absolutely.
And you just got to navigate that as best you can. But I just choose to be who I want to be in the world, instead of who I feel like I need to protect myself,
What was harder for you, making your first $100,000 in a year, or making your first $1 million in a year?
$100,000 for sure.
Why is making $100,000 harder than making $1 million in a year?
Because it's like, I think we're just figuring it out. I also think we're charging too little for our work at that point.
Is this when you're working as a career, or when you had your own business, or freelancing?
I never made $100,000 prior to starting my business.
Got it.
I went from college to I had a job in between college and law school, and then I went to law school. And then I started my own practice. So
you didn't work at a law firm after law school. So you started pretty much right away being an entrepreneur.
Right.
Which is really hard to do.
Yes. My last salary before I became an entrepreneur was $41,000 a year.
Gotcha.
And really good health insurance.
Yeah.
And I was thrilled.
That was in between law school, or in between school and law school, as you said?
Yes.
Gotcha.
No, in between. This was after law school, because this was my clerkship.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. So, you kind of sign on for a year. Your paycheck is not that big, but and you're a lawyer, right?
You're learning the ropes, you're getting reps,
exactly.
You're getting experience.
And that's kind of why I decided to start my business at that time, because I'm like, I already don't have a lot, right? I already know how to live off of this amount of money. Yeah. So I'm like, if I can live off of this now, let me keep my expenses this way, or lower them even more. I sold my car, and we owned a house, and we rented it out, moved into a smaller place.
And how many kids do you have at this time?
I had none yet.
Okay.
Oh, well, actually, that's not true. I had my stepdaughter, but she didn't live with us full time.
Okay.
And so that's what I did at that stage, is I cut down my expenses as much as I could so that I could build this business.
How old were you then?
I was 27,
okay.
I want to say. 2009. Or no, 2009 to 2010.
Okay, cool.
This was that year. And then I clerked for the judge, and I started my practice. And I was like, I made there were months where I made $500 and months that I made $2,000. And that's why linking together, I was doing, my friend bought a salon. She was a hairstylist. She wanted to buy her first salon. I did the transaction. She was purchasing an existing business, and I charged her $500 for that. I don't think I've actually ever told anybody that.
That's cheap.
Because I was ashamed. I was ashamed that I didn't know what to charge for that. Wow. And that I undervalued my services so much.